Now to families who've always found it tough to get their children a proper education. When the School of the Air went online, it was hoped it would revolutionise the education of children in some of South Australia's most remote areas. But 8 years on, the system's failing and dropping kids out of classes. As Rebecca BRICE reports, parents fear their children's education is being undermined and they want the government to do something about it.
Mr. Dear from Port Augusta School of the Air, Royal Flying Doctor Service on 59145.
Good morning, everyone. It's Mrs. Richter Cross here from Alice Springs School of the Air.
Now, what I've done is, because I'm calling Max, how are you today?
I'm good, thank you. How are you?
Max Hunt is a student of the School of the Air. This is his classroom and this is his teacher.
Sometimes we can get a bit confused in our writing, whether to use a or an.
Until recently, the Hunt family lived on a pastoral station about 150 kilometres northwest of Port Augusta. They've temporarily moved to Port Germain further south, and Max Hunt is keeping up his online schooling until they head back to the bush.
Mrs. Cheers at Port Augusta School of the Air saying good afternoon to all of her Year 1 children.
Good afternoon, Mrs. Cheers over.
The School of the Air started out as an HF radio program 53 years ago. In 2003, it went high-tech, delivering e-lessons through a program called Centra.
It was like a revelation. Suddenly they could see their teachers.
But the excitement didn't last long.
When you're doing your lessons and it sometimes doesn't go the way you want and you keep dropping out and then like the internet crashes and everything, you're like trying to get back on and you just can't. So sometimes you like get quite angry with that. What animal do you want?
There are also long delays.
Good word, animal. So
I think Centra's like looking in a really beautiful shop window that has things in there that you just can't afford to buy, because there's so much potential with it, but because of the internet connections that are out in the bush, the kids can't use it to its full potential.
Most of the 64 School of the Air students in South Australia are the children of station workers who have no other schooling alternative. Full-time governesses are often too expensive, as are boarding schools, and they don't generally cater for primary students.
I don't think many boarding schools would take such young students. There are no options if your family happens to live in a remote area.
Like his brother and sister, who now study with the Adelaide-based Open Access College, Max Hunt does most of his work offline under supervision. From Monday to Thursday, it's a 40-minute lesson over the internet, and on Fridays, they might have an online language lesson or even learn a musical instrument. Max Hunt says his classmates in more remote areas, such as Molly and Charlie Gibson, seem to drop out of lessons more often. The Gibsons live at Wilgina Station, about 400 kilometres northwest of Port Augusta. 7:30 SA caught up with them in the Adelaide Hills.
And when you're dropping out, you can't write anything, or your mic stays on and it doesn't go off and your screen freezes.
The teacher might think that they're not paying attention or not interested, so moves on to the next person. They get frustrated at home in the schoolroom, etc., etc., and they're really not getting a good lesson.
Good morning, everyone. It's Alice Springs School of the Air.
Members of the Isolated Children's Parents Association say they can't pinpoint whether it's Centra that's at fault or the internet service. They say South Australia is decades away from the kinds of lessons being provided elsewhere, such as the Northern Territory.
It would be great if you could have video link-ups and they could see their teacher and communicate with their other classmates. Other states in Australia actually do have systems like that they say work. So maybe there is some system that is better than Centra.
But School of the Air Principal Polly Smart believes country internet services are the problem.
Not all students who use Centra are actually based in rural areas. Many of Open Access College's students are based in metropolitan areas, and they also access Centra, but they don't have these issues.
The Education Department takes the same view.
families who live on remote properties purchase their own internet service, and the problems experienced by some families during School of the Air classes are due to the capability of individual internet services.
But just in case, the department's getting a technical review of Centra to check it's not making the situation worse.
It's very difficult to actually provide a service to a very remote community or to a remote household. It's not cost effective to take a wire all the way out there or an optical fibre. It's not cost effective even to provide a wireless solution from the nearest town in some cases.
IT expert Dr Matthew SORELL says satellite is the only option for the state's far reaches.
The big challenge with satellite is that we're dealing with what's called a geostationary satellite. Satellite that's 39,000 kilometres away, and at that distance it then means that you have something like a quarter of a second for your signal at the speed of light to go all the way up to the satellite and all the way back down to a ground station.
He says with each additional user the delays become more significant. Both the speed and capacity of country internet connections are expected to increase significantly with the launch of 2 new satellites by 2015. That's part of the rollout of the national broadband network. In the meantime, though, the School of the Air wants the Education Minister, Jay Weatherill, to come and see the problems for himself.
We have to do something because it's everything to us. It's the child's education, it's our library, it's where we get our information from. We can't just, nip down to the bookshop and buy a book on something. We have to get that information from the internet.
We've been asking and writing letters for years now, and they really keep fobbing us off. So if the department would like to take responsibility for the internet connection and seeing that we have an adequate internet connection so that we can do our schooling, that would be fantastic.
This week we were sharing at Ballara last
The fact that Australia is a very large country with very, very many remote areas is a given, and if it's going to be costly to give access or equal access to all areas to technology, then so be it.
Rebecca BRICE reporting, and Joanna GIBSON will join a delegation of parents coming to Adelaide to petition the Education Minister in a fortnight.